Welcome to the show, Philip Ittner, live from
Ah,
Kyiv, host of On the Edge. Every Sunday, new episode. Joins me bi-weekly, Wednesdays for hump days with Phil, as it were. And then Saturday on the radio show, the House Parks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Phil is with
mhm.
me for an hour then as well. And we're committed to bringing you what's going on in Ukraine, until some resolution
And why it matters.
comes. Yes,
And why it matters.
why it matters. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So,
yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
We are
Because
in
it
day,
does.
yeah, we're in day 8 of our shutdown. There is a, um, you know, there's the talks going on between Hamas, Israel, and the Palestinian Authority, and Islamic State has just entered the chat, which I guarantee in the disarmament talks adds another level of difficulty because they have hostages too, which is one of the other things that we talk about. And all this talk about hostages, Phil, I like it's amazing to me how we have breezed past the fact, and I credit European leaders finally getting on board, and Zelensky finally pushing this and saying it in front of Trump and the world multiple times that Russia has somewhere in the order of 60 to 70,000 children held hostage. I mean, we're talking about 48 hostages, 20 living and the rest dead allegedly currently in that Hamas has, and talks going on in Sharm el Sheikh about the return of these hostages and the corpses. And meanwhile, nobody in the well, no, I won't say nobody. Few in the West will call this what it is, which is Ukrainian children are hostages in this war, that they are part of the mutual assured destruction
Yeah.
plan of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. And what about all those Ukrainian children who are living under Russian occupation,
Right.
who, of course, have educational institutions that are being, you know, the 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 school books, the
Mm-hmm.
teachers,
Right.
everything is being taught from a perspective of Moscow, and these are Ukrainian citizens and children who are being taught on a daily basis that their own um, compatriots are living under a Nazi regime, and that
Right.
actually we get to the point where other Ukrainian children are getting to the point where they are being militarily um, trained to pick up a weapon against their fellow Ukrainians because those
Mm-hmm.
guys, those children are living under an occupied territory, which Moscow dictates everything.
Yeah. Right.
So we get to a point where we have Ukrainian children fighting Ukrainian children,
Mm-hmm.
and it's deeply, deeply cynical, and we know it's happening. And of course, the Russians have a very different perspective on this. But at the end of the day, you do have 19-year-old children in
Mm-hmm.
um, in Ukrainian territory that is occupied by Russia, picking up weapons and training and planning to target other Ukrainians who may be on the other line of um, this divide, this border that's been proposed by Moscow, but which is based on little less than
Mm-hmm.
simply colonialism.
Right.
So that's where we are. And
Yeah.
by the way, so I made my point about that, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to back to Ukraine, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I really wanted to come on
Mm-hmm.
in the last 24 or 36 hours with the expectation of speaking to you and to the audience uh, um, on a completely different topic.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get back to Ukraine,
Sure.
obviously. But I was I was a war correspondent
Mm-hmm.
for many years, and I spent a lot of time with American armed forces, and I really wanted to take a moment of our time that we spend together on a Wednesday um, to tell a story. And I think I may have told you this story previously, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it again. When I was deputy bureau chief for CBS News in Baghdad, um, it, when Katrina happened
Mm-hmm.
in Louisiana, and what happened
Right.
there, the Louisiana National Guard was cut back from its tour of duty
Mm-hmm.
in in Iraq, and they had been the protective line along what was called Route Irish, and Route Irish was the highway that connected central Baghdad to um, the Baghdad International Airport,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and and so everybody that drove down that road was under fire quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And the Louisiana National Guard were the ones who provided protection lines
Mm-hmm.
along the Baghdad International Highway.
Yeah.
Katrina happens, and they request that they would be able to leave a month early, roughly, to return back to Louisiana to deal with security situation. The security, atmosphere in the coast
Mm-hmm.
as Katrina happened,
Right.
and CBS News was as a kind of rota designated as the one who would be um, the pool reporter uh, as the Louisiana National Guard returned to the United States. They actually had to fly into Texas because of the situation post Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And so I traveled back with them as a CBS producer. I had a cameraman with me. It was him and me, and we
Mm-hmm.
as a kind of lighthearted aspect of this,
Mm-hmm.
we flew out of Baghdad International Airport with the entire Louisiana National Guard, and we flew to Shannon Airport in Ireland. And again, as a lighthearted kind of aspect of this entire story, um, these guys had not been able to have a beer or an alcoholic beverage in the better part of a year. And so we fly into Shannon Airport, and these lovely Irish people
Mm-hmm.
who ran a pub within the airport had lined up pints of Guinness
Oh wow.
for these soldiers,
Leave it to the fucking
and
Irish.
we had about a leave it to the fucking Irish, is right,
Irish, ah.
yeah. So yeah, so they flew in, and they had like 20 minutes to refuel the planes, and so all of these National Guardsmen who had 24 hours before been under constant threat
Yeah.
they went to this they went to this Irish pub, and the Guinnesses were lined up along the pub, and they just bam, 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 bam,
Never.
bam. And then they get back on the plane and they fly to Maine, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the next refueling point for these guys. And they fly back, and the entire brigade is met with applause and
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of things. So, here's a crab cake. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
thank you for your service. This, that, and the other thing. Get back on the plane. Finally, they fly back to Texas, and this is where we kind of disembark. We
Mm-hmm.
we break because they get into military vehicles and they go to
Louisiana, yeah.
Louisiana,
Right.
and we get in civilian vehicles and we follow them up, and they get to a point in out just outside of New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
and they are at a rally point, and they have the governor of Louisiana at the time during
Mm-hmm.
During Katrina. She is sat there, and the head, I think he was probably I'm betting he was a colonel. He might have been a first star.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he has the entire Louisiana. Keep in mind, this is Katrina.
Yeah.
Okay, Katrina. We all remember Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys have just come back from Iraq, and they're in formation. And the governor comes out and says, "We need you. We welcome you back. We understand that you came back early, that you were given special privilege to come back
Mm-hmm.
early. We need you. We need you."
Mm-hmm.
Katrina is disastrous. She gets off the stage, and I am within ear distance of the governor of Louisiana and the head of the Louisiana National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the exact exchange of communication, but generally, this is what I heard. The governor said, "I want your troops in downtown New Orleans, like within the next 12 hours."
Mm-hmm.
And the head, the commanding officer of
Mm-hmm.
the um, Louisiana National Guard says, "I don't think he actually, refused a
Mm-hmm.
direct order, but he said, with all, I'm paraphrasing here, with all due respect, ma'am, these men should not be on the front lines of what has happened in Katrina. They have spent the last year on the the most dangerous highway in the world that leads to
Mm-hmm.
Baghdad International Airport. They will fire. They will engage.
Mm-hmm.
They will pick up their weapon, and they will put down anything that comes their way, because that's what they've been through.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all due respect, Madam Governor, I would prefer to see my men deployed as logistical control, making sandbags of,
Mm-hmm.
like, yes,
Yeah.
controlling some things or another. But if you put my men who have spent the last, 10, 11 months of their lives at 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 checkpoints along the most dangerous
Yeah.
highway in the world, they will kill people.
And they give you
They'll kill
yeah.
people.
Right.
And so I don't want my men on checkpoints in New Orleans with the disposition of having come from
Yeah.
Iraq
There's a
to
difference.
kill their fellow Americans.
Right.
And so now we find ourselves
Mm-hmm.
at a place where our president is actually saying, "Kill fellow Americans."
Mm-hmm.
The distance that we have come from what was Katrina, 2003,
Yeah, think
you
so.
know,
Yeah. Hmm.
we come from that place where we had a commanding officer of a National Guard unit saying to the civilian commander
Hmm.
of that National Guard, with all due respect, no, this is
Right.
not a good idea.
Well, this.
We will be killing fellow Americans.
Yes.
And now we find ourselves where we are today. And I
Hmm.
just really wanted to make that point
Yes.
because I witnessed that firsthand.
Hmm.
And I know that this is a very, very different military and the command structure. If you, I hope to God that the soldiers that I got to know very well as during my time as a military correspondent, and I believe this to be true, um, that I hope to God that they will recognize that the oath that they take is to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and they will not follow an illegal order.
Order. Right.
And those guys back during Katrina, their commanding officer said, I will not put
Yeah.
my soldiers in a place where they have to make the decision about what is a legal and an illegal order.
Yeah.
And and we're not there now. And that makes
Well.
me very
Okay. Yeah.
upset.
Yep.
And I'm sincerely hoping that those soldiers will
Right. And
follow in the
those were Louisiana National Guard. It's an important distinction I want to bring up because this is part
yeah.
of the story that's happening right now. Is that the Louisiana National Guard was called back so that they could police and effectively handle situations like this within their own state. And that's because the idea that they would open fire on their fellow citizens is lesser if it's people from your own state. The National Guard of a state. One of the reasons why they can do police actions in some cases is that they live in the community. Their families live there. They're from there. And in theory they continue to be. Did you freeze or is it okay? Okay, there you go. But Trump wants to bring in, and this came up in Pam Bondi's you know uh, PR blitz of a oversight hearing yesterday. Trump wants to bring the Texas National Guard to Illinois. And he was talking about this on Jan 6 as well. This is a plan left over from Jan 6. It was the idea that if you bring in the Maryland National Guard or the Virginia National Guard into D.C. to protect it, they might follow the law. If Trump says the Insurrection Act is on, every citizen you see is an enemy combatant, open fire. The chances of the Maryland, Virginia ones who have family in the area doing that is slim to none. But the Texas ones think DC is overrun by foreign operatives and UN shock troops disguised as citizens and Antifa and whatever the fuck. And so they're more apt to take that order and follow through with it. So Trump wanted to bring 10,000 National Guard to protect the Capitol, and Nancy Pelosi and them, said no thank you, because on the one hand, they didn't think they would be necessary, and it would look like they were making a show of force, like it was her idea. He would go, look, they've even put soldiers there, but he put ones from Texas, so he would institute the Insurrection Act, and all those soldiers that are standing on the steps of the Capitol would turn around and help the Jan Sixers. That was apparently the plan from Steve Bannon and Roger Stone and all these proto-Russian fuckers. And this is sort of the same thing. When he wants to send the Texas National Guard to Chicago, what he wants to do is send a bunch of people who live in Texas, who have no relation to the people of Chicago, who see it through the videos on Twitter fed to them by Elon Musk's algorithm, and think the place is overrun with commies from out of the country or traitors that are trying to bring down the government, so that if they have to open fire on a protest group, they don't have to discriminate in their firing. That's what he wants to have happen. And he spoke yesterday. Yeah. Um, they asked him if he would consider invoking the Insurrection Act because it keeps coming up. And he goes, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary. But we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. Okay, normal sentence, like, a little, right wing puffery. We've seen it before in Reagan. We've seen it before in Bush. Not that strange. It's the follow up that was the concerning part. He goes, if I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed, that's it, right? And courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure our cities are safe. Well, he's not saying people aren't killed, at all. He means people, he's allowing for the inference that innocent people are being killed, so we have to kill the people that are killing the innocent people, and therefore we've got to send people in to kill the people that are killing the innocent. And so that allows me to choose who's innocent and who's not. And they'll use the same quality control on their decisions as they made about boats coming from Venezuela, which is none. If we see it leaving the port, it's a bad guy, blow it up. That's been their status. Their modus operandi. So the Insurrection Act of
Well,
1807. He goes, yeah. Go ahead.
look, okay. Let me lay this down. Frankly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to. We have a couple of episodes of On the Edge that we have put together, and they're being edited. But I am going to be going back to the States for Thanksgiving.
Oh, all right.
Um, but I will also
Mm-hmm.
be going to Ann Arbor
Mm.
for the game
Mm-hmm.
against the Buckeyes and the Wolverines.
Well, all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
we, I, we have taken up as proud Michiganders.
Mm-hmm.
We have taken up shotguns
Mm-hmm.
and sat on the border, the Toledo border between Ohio and Michigan, and sat there and said, "This is Michigan, you're Ohio."
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm being a little
Facetious. Yeah.
silly with all
Right.
this, but yeah, at the same time, we're Americans.
Mm-hmm.
We're Americans. I if, if anybody puts this in my face
Mm-hmm.
in the future, I will absolutely contradict it
Mm-hmm.
with thousands of caveats.
Right.
But
Right.
I would stand behind a Buckeye
Yeah.
before I would stand behind
Yeah.
any foreign in any foreign attack, any federal attack.
Right.
We will play it out on the field
Yeah.
in Ann Arbor. We will have the Wolverines and the Buckeyes, and I am so looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to being in America for Thanksgiving.
Right.
We are all Americans. We are first and foremost Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And the division that they are trying to create out of what Trump's intentions are, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
We are Americans. We are together Americans.
Yeah.
We have our differences. We have our arguments. But at the end of the day, we are all much more united than we are divided
Right.
by foreign interests, who I still contend that the Trump administration is compromised by. You know why I have my Lincoln
Mm-hmm.
quote at the end of every episode of On the Edge, and that is done on purpose
Yeah.
and with intent. Um, we are Americans,
Yeah.
and sending troops into whatever city, it doesn't matter. The thought of American troops um, firing on American citizens,
Yeah.
I think is reprehensible. I think it is. I think there is a Russian element to this.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are foreign elements to this that are contributing to getting us to fight amongst ourselves, because the best way to destroy America is to set Americans against one another, which is, goes back to my
Yeah.
story about what happened in New Orleans. Um, look,
Well,
this all
look at the neo-monarchist influence around the Civil War. That during the Civil War there was, and England wasn't the only one, but there were monarchists that were funding the Confederacy and helping them and supporting them because they were hoping, they didn't think they would win, but because they wanted it to break up. That there, that France could get back the Louisiana Purchase. That there was like a bunch of things where everybody was, or like lands given during, them leaving and what have you. So there was this idea that if we can just shatter it, we can move in and infect the cracks like an infection, and grow within it, split it even further apart, and then divide it up amongst ourselves. And there's been a real belief about that, both from a corporatist mindset and what would be like what we would call an oligarchy in Russia. But the corporatist idea is that there should be no government at all. It should just be an incorporation, and that incorporation should be, enforced by violence, which is the Peter Thiel, system, the technocracy that they're talking about. Trump actually said on Greg Kelly's show, and I think this is the audio of it. Hold on, let's see if I can play that part of it. He actually said,
the Insurrection Act, is that going to be formally
Well,
invoked? Is that a way to
looking
kind
for
of get
that,
around all this?
is
hold on,
the concept.
hold on. I don't know if you could hear that. Did you hear that? I was playing a little bit of it. Could you hear it?
Oh no, I didn't hear.
Okay, let me arrange for the audio to come your way. Not sure why it wouldn't, but back to the ekim, because I think, I turned off the Chrome thing because I was looping it through. So this would be, I have it right here. So this is Greg Kelly asking Trump about the Insurrection Act. And by the way, Greg Kelly has a look on his face where he looks like he's about to take a shit. Like he's like, this is not, like he does. You can tell when he's trying to break bad news to Trump. Like I don't like this, but I like you. So
the Insurrection Act, is that going to be formally invoked? Is that a way to kind of get around all this opposition?
Well, it is a way to get around it. If we don't have to use it, I wouldn't use it. If you take a look at what's been going on in Portland, it's been going on for a long time, and that's insurrection. I mean, that's pure insurrection. And then you'll have a governor get up and say, there's absolutely nothing wrong. And you see these places are burning down, like in Chicago with Pritzker. They lose 5 a weekend, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11.
30.
It's crazy. And like 35 are shot. You look at some of the bigger weekends, and they'll have.
Yeah. I'm absolutely, as somebody who lived through the LA riots, this image terrifies the shit out of me. What is there, like 35, 40 protesters outside this federal building? There's dudes up on the rooftop with pepper ball guns. And as long as they don't step onto the property, nothing happens to them. They can say all the rando shit they want. This is not an insurrection. This idea that this is somehow a color revolution, which is, by the way, how the right is painting it. They think that this is the new like Maoist revolution or the new Jacobins, which they've been talking about it as well, as a way of trying to stir up a sense of fearful history in their followers. Which, by the way, again, a mile wide and an inch deep. These people's understanding of history. So whatever the fuck. But like the idea that you would play this clip is almost a fuck you from the people who work at Newsmax to Trump and Kelly for talking about it in this term. Let me finish the rest of it.
11 dead, 11 murdered, and 50 shot.
There's a dude waving an American flag right there. Everybody's quiet.
And then he gets up on television, tells everyone how safe it is. It's not safe, and we'll make it safe. I can make it safe.
Also, by the way, never mind the fact that he's talking about regular order policing, acts of murder by citizens which is covered by state and federal or state and local police. Always is. Unless they cross a state line, the FBI isn't involved unless it's requested by the state because of the size of the organization or some shit like that. But the idea that the federal government has any business in invoking some sort of like, we've got to take control of cities because of the murder rate by volume, as if the number of people shot and all that kind of stuff isn't a concern of the state and local police, which it always is. The problem we have, if they wanted to do anything, if the federal government wanted to help Chicago, they would set up a perimeter between Illinois and Missouri where the rules of guns are different and the guns that end up in Chicago come from. Right? That's the issue. Mm-hmm. That's what's causing all the death up there. These would be fist fights if it wasn't for straw purchases, by and large. So, and then bumps.
I agree with you in that domestic kind of argument.
Yeah.
But what I have said for many years, as somebody who has spent years of my life in conflict zones, Americans have no idea what war looks like.
Right. And you shouldn't. A civilized society should have no idea. Right.
The 1%, or whatever it is, the 5% of the U.S. military, and I variate on that percentage because I don't know what it is, but I do know that it is small. And even those who are in the military, a smaller percentage of them are the ones who actually go out and see what war looks like. A whole chunk of our military is actually based in very, very secure, enclosed encampments by purpose, because we don't want body bags coming back.
Yeah.
But the guys that go out there and they kick down doors and they do the tough stuff, we don't want that in America. Those guys, they know, and a lot of them have been damaged, and they're really messed up.
Yeah.
And this kind of element of the Proud Boys, or the kind of militant aspect of our soldiery, who have been deeply damaged by the wars that they were involved with. We want to help them. We do not want them to give. We do not want to give them influence and power. America does not want to become Iraq.
Right.
Trust me.
Right. And then also, I would like to say, like, there's a reason why we separate our civilian leadership from the military, and why we make those distinctions, and why we don't police our country with military. It's on the one hand, ethically, morally, it's correct. It's the best way to work. It materially and strategically works better that way. But also because we don't want our own soldiers who have been deployed overseas, like you were talking about, to come back and be in an us versus them militaristic mindset, and then find themselves killing their fellow citizens, which is, by the way, during the time that they're executing the rights that they have the right to have in this country, that they were fighting overseas to protect until they were brought back. And it's, killing protesters is why would you bother to give your life fighting for the country so that people can have freedom of speech, for example, which is a big one with the right, apparently, or allegedly, whether they truly believe it or not. Lately, their version of hate speech conversation has drawn that into question, has freaked everybody else out. There's a big maggot division going on around that. But you go overseas to fight for freedom of speech and all that, and then you come back over here and shoot people for exercising their right to freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and addressing their grievances against their government. Seems a bit counterintuitive, I think, is the nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Well, there was this film that was put out last year in 2025, Civil War with Kirsten Dunst, and I just got it. I've just pulled up here. I don't know who the director was. Alex Garland, I suppose. Um, I watched that movie, and it is a depiction of a civil war in the United States, and
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a really it's actually kind of a really shitty film.
Yeah.
And I say that because
It
it's
was.
more about well, yeah. Objectively, it was a shitty film, but it was this kind of depiction of what is a civil war, and a lot of people got caught up in the idea that it was a depiction of a civil war in America.
Mm-hmm.
It was a crap movie. I don't like the movie. I think
What
it's
was the name of
filled
it
with
again?
tropes of
Which one?
civil war.
Oh,
Civil war.
it's just called Civil War. Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Was
called
it
Civil
on?
War, and it's filled with
Was it
kind
a
of like
day? Was it a
it's
Daily
filled.
Wire
Oh,
movie
it's
on Clean Flicks or something, or was
no,
it one of the Left Behinds?
it actually did quite well, but it was kind of filled with these tropes of like, oh, these adrenaline junkie journalists and
Yeah.
what it looks like in a civil war generally. And that was like one of the criticisms of the film was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, how did America get to a civil
Right.
war situation?
Right.
And I look, I got criticisms of the film
Sure.
that is not worth going into.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is kind of a bit of a kind of like,
Look, the casting of Gary Busey as the president of the United States. I think once you start from there, it
no,
sets up.
it
I'm
wasn't
kidding.
Gary Busey. It was no, it was come on now,
The
come
Ted
on
Nugent
now. He was
soundtrack sucks. I don't care what anybody says.
he
And Kirk Cameron as the guy who gives the sign off on the news media as the last bastion of free speech.
Oberman.
Before,
It
oh,
was it was Oberman who was the president. Nick Offerman who was
oh,
the but hey, look, the movie was crap in my
mm-hmm,
opinion because
mm-hmm,
it played upon tropes of like war correspondents who are all fucked up and like we
mm-hmm,
drink and we fuck and we
mm-hmm.
like we just want the adrenaline of like covering a war.
Right.
Um uh and that's
Well, this
why
is
the film
the
was not
the myth.
specifically
I'll tell
about
you where that
any.
comes from. I'll tell you where that comes from. I'll tell you exactly where it comes from.
Well, I know
It
where that
comes
comes
from
from,
the myth
but
of the Vietnam vet. That there was this get some leftover
eh,
from fucking
I think
Full Metal
no, it
Jacket
goes
and
back
from
further.
no, but I mean it like
No,
in the yeah.
it goes further back to the Second World War with like what's his
Well,
name
like
who
well,
used to go in the trenches and
mm,
let me
mm,
get to a point.
sure.
The point I'm trying to make about this film
Hmm.
is that it tried to depict to an American audience of like what an American Civil War would look like
Right.
without getting into the politics of the region. What I try to do and
Hmm.
have done since I left war correspondency, even though I'm still here in Ukraine,
Oh, Nick Offerman
is
was the
that
president. Right. Okay.
Nick
That's yeah.
Offerman,
Right.
who was the president, yeah.
Gotcha.
What I try to do is make the point that you all these guys who flippantly use our political divide,
Hmm.
which is actually being exacerbated by foreign powers,
Yeah.
do not understand what war looks like.
Right.
I know what war looks like.
Hmm.
There are a lot of American service members who
Hmm.
know what war looks like. We do not want
Hmm.
war on American soil
Right.
for so many reasons that are
Uh,
beyond easily explaining.
Most people,
But
okay,
we
yeah,
do not
no,
want.
no. Well,
We, we-
hey,
yeah.
that's what Glenn Beck was saying. I played a clip from him yesterday because he's panicking because a bunch of people on his flank are calling for this shit. Nobody, of merit, anyways, and or that's even a real account on, anywhere, is calling for a civil war in these situations. People will say some awful shit, but this idea that there's going to be this kind of like, we need to fucking fight a new civil war is just absurd and just, online slacktivist bullshit. But there's the one people that, like, that people play of this movie, what gets played a lot, especially in right-wing circles, is a scene with Jesse Plemons. Let's see if I can find it.
Yes.
This
Where
this scene.
He's got the mass grave. He's got the mass grave.
Yeah, he's got a mass grave, and he's standing in front of it, and a bunch of reporters come up, and he goes, "You an American?" And he's like, "What kind of American?" And then this other guy's like, and the one reporter's, I think, from Hong Kong, and he's like, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" Whatever. And the guy says, I forget if he says, like, "I'm from Hong Kong." He just shoots him, just kills him dead, and then don't worry, the scene ends with him not seeing a truck coming from a long way off in a field and getting run over, which is just fucking dumb. But the whole scene is meant to be this kind of like, the right wing, militia types can't wait for the great day of the rope, and they're just gonna take the Civil War and turn it into their own hunting ground. Which, by the way, is exactly what happened with the Jacobins. It's exactly what happened with every revolution.
Having been look how I have been a war correspondent for nearly 3 decades of my life. Yes, that scene is disturbing, and obviously that's why it was created. But I think what I need to convey to my fellow Americans is, do you want to be in a position where you have to show identification that you belong to this sect or that sect to be able to go to the next town, to go to the Walmart? Because it's not the bang bang. The bang bang is the bang bang is bad. Mass graves are bad. But what happens in a war is that your entire relationship with every single other neighbor that you have alters immediately.
Right.
Because everybody has to take a side. And we have never seen that domestically since the Civil War.
Right.
But
I will say for the record that I find that those ideas are, and you're absolutely right in your assessment of it, and the American people have no interest even playing around with the languaging of this because they have no fucking idea what they're talking about. And like I said, nor should they. A civil society shouldn't have any idea how war is awful, how awful war is, to the point of building that up, keeping it going, maintaining it like fucking adults, and then helping other countries to the best of their abilities get out of that shit too, so that everybody can operate in a peaceful sense. And that's what the right has called globalism for a while. And they're insisting that this kind of like peace narrative is fucked up. You gotta, and there's a bunch of people in the Trump administration who want, Stephen Miller, I would say specifically, who want to kill things like USAID because they think the natural order of things, the genetic order of things, the passive eugenics of war will be that the Middle East and Africa and all these other countries will either die because they'll kill themselves and then anybody who's left over will get malaria or AIDS and just die off so we can claim the land and let, in the guns, germs, and steel part, we're using too much guns and steel and we should just let germs do their work. That's genuinely the thought form. It's why they hate Bill Gates, beyond the fact that, apparently, and anybody who says it's his connection to Epstein is a bunch of horseshit because Trump had a much bigger connection and they love him. So please, fucking please. But there is this sort of idea, this fantastical idea that like when it happens, we're gonna be on top. This fucking Manson White Album Helter Skelter bullshit that this is how stupid, and I need to remind people of this. Just like Donald Trump thought that people who are seeking asylum came from asylums, and how fucking dumb that is. Charles Manson thought that his message of Helter Skelter that there would be a race war and white people would lose physically but win and have to control it came from the White Album. I want people to recognize how like binary and bullshit and AB logic this shit was. It wasn't some like LSD fantasy of some sort of interconnected. He took certain drugs and he could just see the whole connected web and he came up with this crazy plan because of a no. The White Album told him that black people in the 60s who were, in the middle of the civil rights movement would eventually beat people up because they were physically more adept, but were too stupid to run themselves and would need white people to run them. And Manson thought, we'll be the white people that runs the world after the apocalypse and tells the black people what to build. Like it's so stupid once you actually hear what it was. That's what the Civil War shit is like. It's just as dumb as Manson's White Album horse shit. And this idea that Trump, who somehow thinks he's like, he said yesterday or day before yesterday when he was giving his speech to the Navy, which he tried to make a rally, brought the chicks along from the Real Housewives of Trump rally that come with him, and said this is their 141st rally. It's like, motherfucker, it's not a rally. You're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the creation of the Navy, which, by the way, by and large, was created in its world extension to stop slavery. Like, for fuck's sake. That honestly, and boy, did he bypass that shit. He brought up the Barbary Coast, and he brought, but he has no idea what the fuck it's for. But this is like, making this about this kind of like macho, we're going to stand up and we're going to automatically win, and that it's genetic. We're genetically going to win. He was talking about these Marines that were there, these old men, and he's like, that's good genes right there. Because he's been telling himself lately that he's believing Ronnie Jackson, going, you got the genes of somebody who could live to be 120. We just got to keep your ticker going, sir. Like, that's honestly what he's been told. He's got Ronnie Jackson touring with him right now. That's not good. If Ronnie Jackson is your Dr. Feelgood, you're kind of fucked. And his cankles were just like pouring over the outside of his fucking shoes like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So it's the only fear.
Yeah, I mean,
the only fear we have of a real
I'm,
civil war will be that if he keels over, which I think is increasingly likely by the day, that he will not survive his term for real reasons. Like that, Biden at the end, people were like, "Ooh, he's shuffling, he's walking a little weak," but he was riding his bike, he was physically healthy in that regard. They were just thought, "Oh, his health is getting there, so he can't be president." Trump, like literally in front of the Navy, was like, I'm going to fall down a flight of stairs one day. Like he basically said it because he sees the end coming. He's talking about going to heaven, and the only reason to be good is to get into heaven. Like even his relationship with Christ is transactional. It's so fucking on the nose. It's pathetic. But he sees it.
Yeah, there is a reason why, generally, obviously, being in Ukraine, we tend to talk about the conflict here. I don't necessarily think that these actually are disconnected, because I do think there is a global argument that is happening right now about liberal democracy as opposed to autocracy, and we in America are at the front line of this. And I mean, I really do genuinely believe that we are at a point where this concept of a civil war or an inflection point between what Lincoln writes. Damn it! I keep going back to that damn letter. But it is exactly what Lincoln is writing about in the Swift letter. It is exactly, we are either going to be a country where we believe that people have inherent human rights, or we are going to be a country in which power is the arbiter of how we relate to one another.
Right.
it has been our constant debate, and
Mm-hmm.
we fought a revolution about it, we fought a civil war about it, we had a civil rights movement about it,
Mm-hmm.
and we are back at the same argument. Do I don't care what culture, color, or creed, belief, whatever it is, you are able to function in a society
Mm-hmm.
that enables you to hold those beliefs. And that has been the fundamental argument of the American experiment. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, having studied the Russians,
Mm-hmm.
who are the counter who are the counterposition of this idea, which is to say that power of the state, regardless of individual rights or civil rights, is more important than anything else.
Right.
Either that's the path we want to go down, or we want to go down a path of the individual matters, and that the strength of the state is bolstered by the individual rights
Engagement,
and
yeah, and engagement in the protection of those
engagement
rights and
of
the
the
constant
individual.
gardening. I wrote a Substack about like how we turned, because I came up with this term political fanfic to describe how we the current way of narrating how our government works, and the short runway of that idea that it only works in a limited sense. Every analogy has a limit where ad absurdum it doesn't work anymore. But the idea of politics as sports or politics as a binge TV series where there's clear villains and clear heroes, where everything is a
Or
cliffhanger
even
and the
a
next,
chess game.
yeah, right, yes, yeah, it is even like it goes to this analogy of fighting even has led us inexorably to this point, to the talk of civil war and stuff, because it's the wrong fucking analogy. It does not work. I know people think it works, and I know that it sets a fire in their Twitter belly where they feel like they can, ham out some fucking shitter feeds if they feel like they're fighting for something, when in reality you're not fighting. You're yelling, you might be arguing, call it that. Stop being an asshole. Don't call it fighting. If you're fighting because you're showing up, if you're voting. How about that? How about just fucking vote? How about just show up and be an active
And if
citizen?
it,
Because it's a lot more
and
like
not to
constant
interrupt,
gardening. Yeah.
but when it does come to fighting, you won't like it.
Yes, you will
You
hate
won't
it.
like it.
Right.
You will.
Also, so here, this to
And
your
I
point.
say this, I say this with all desperate sincerity that
Yeah.
I can possibly purvey
Mm-hmm.
to everybody watching. War is not something you want to be engaged with.
Yeah.
You don't want it to happen in your
Right.
country.
Yeah.
And
Because there. Mm-hmm.
it's not.
Yeah, Ali Osher into my chat says, but TYT and Hassan Piker do discourage voting. Yes, and that's why I call them out for their bullshittery. And do they have bigger numbers than me online right now? Yeah, but eventually they will have to answer for the sales pitch that they've done to try and undermine all this shit and the damage that they have caused. I truly believe that. I'm going to, it's that line from Samuel L. Jackson, I think in the first Avengers movie. She goes, get everybody to a safe distance, and clear these things out. And she goes, sir, if that thing goes off, there may not be a minimum safe distance. And he says, until the world stops spinning, we will behave as if it intends to spin on. And I think that's how you have to do it. The minute somebody says to you, act like the world's going to end, that's when they got you. That's where you cut your balls off, put your Nikes next to the bed, and wait for the comet. And that's when you drink the Kool-Aid and die. And that's their goal, because they know it's going to spin on, and they can't have you around to bug them when it happens. You have to, the constant grind. And this is why Trump said, he called, what was happening in Portland an insurrection, because the local judges and the local police have acted the way they have. And he thinks they're being undermined from within. Well, guess what? We have mechanisms to take care of that too. If somebody's getting money or instruction from a foreign government or a subversive group inside, track it down, impeach the judge, and get rid of them. But it's not going to be, that problem is not going to be fixed by sending soldiers down on the streets to shoot the civilians because you think the judges aren't tough enough on crime. That's not an insurrection. And if they're acting in, in a traitorous way, we already have a legal mechanism to show that, prove it, and deal with it from a justice system standpoint. If you can't do it, then you suck at your job, step aside and let somebody else do it better. I want to finish up because we're getting near the end of the show, and I want to remind everybody On the Edge on Sunday, and it was a great conversation to have. There was one story.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't delve into Ukraine as much as we normally do, but
we kind of have.
I just
because,
one last thing.
Yeah,
look, we do not want a civil war.
Mm-hmm.
I have covered war for 30 years. We do not want war on our soil. And so
power hungry, selling humans
I took the time out to make that point repeatedly. But if you'd like to ask me a last minute kind of
this is more like a lead into, like, it kind of ties into this idea of what you were talking about in the beginning about bringing the National Guard back from Iraq and Afghanistan, putting them in Louisiana, and recognizing that they might be a problem. Well, the Kremlin is dealing with a similar issue right now. The Kremlin is apparently increasingly concerned that the return of tens of thousands of veterans from the war in Ukraine, including many former prisoners, may pose a serious internal threat to Vladimir Putin's regime. According to the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine, on October 7th, Russian authorities anticipate that returning soldiers may become a destabilizing force, both politically and socially, particularly as they face reintegration into a society marked by low wages, economic uncertainty, and limited social support. Where have we seen this before? According to the Kremlin's estimates, veterans could become a catalyst for criminal and political destabilization, capable of shaking the system built around Putin's personal loyalty, they said in a public statement. Ukrainian intelligence draws a parallel in the 90s when Soviet veterans returned from Afghanistan, formed criminal and paramilitary groups that contributed to a surge in organized crime across Russia. A similar trend may be emerging now, fueled by the psychological impact of the war, prior criminal histories, and economic hardships. The SZRU noted that a significant part of Russia's military effort relied on prisoners recruited from penal colonies. That's an extra layer of fuckery that makes this. I mean, imagine if in Vietnam we had just rounded up a bunch of death row inmates and people like that and said, hey, you got one last chance. Go over there and kill some people, and if you survive, you're allowed to come home. Fuck any of those people, like the Bundys of the world, the fucking Gacy's of the world, would be allowed to be back in public because they killed people we didn't like. So, that was hard labor.
Traumatized.
Yes.
Traumatized.
Right. Between 120,000 and 180,000 convicts have been deployed to the front. Think about that fucking number. 120, and violent ones, because the first ones that went, anyway, many of them have since returned to Russian cities where authorities are reportedly seeing a sharp rise in violent crime committed by individuals with military service records. Since 2023, Russian military courts have received at least 989 cases involving murder or grievously bodily harm resulting in death. Official sentencing figures revealed a steep climb in convictions: 38 in 2022, 266 in 2023, 346 in 2024, 377 new cases already in 2025. Kremlin has responded to the growing security risk by expanding the powers of the Federal Penitentiary Service. So they're just rounding these fuckers back up. So if that's the word, and you're fighting on the front, and you're like, you go back, they don't want to take the chance, and they're just going to throw you back in jail, which is increasingly what they're going to have to do. What reason do you have to go back, or to once you go back, don't immediately go underground? And just become part of a paramilitary group, or part of this is the same thing they did when they came back from Afghanistan, just on a ginormous fucking scale.
Or even go back into a criminal organization. You might be in a prison, but you are still a part of a criminal, organization that takes care of you while you're in prison.
Right.
And that's a huge thing in Russia.
Yeah.
The whole thing. The
Yeah.
whole thing is an absolute mess.
I'm going to show you one
В
last thing
данную
too.
минуту горит здание,
This is
где продавались ворота
an
фермы.
electronics factory
Соседнее здание с заводом Липове.
in
Страшно.
Novosibirsk in Russia. And the question right now is whether it was hit by a drone by the Ukrainians. This is a huge electronics firm. And by the way, this comes after, and I know we're going to throw these in at the kind of the last minute, but let me see if I can find this. Yeah, China has halted precision machine tool exports to Russia, and then right after that, a place that would have used these precision machine tools for electronics blows up. Again, it could be because of failures within it or what have you, but either way, not good, as Trump would say. Though not so good way to do it. And then Russia hit their own, one of their air defense systems hit a building in Belgorod. Watch this.
Mm-hmm.
That is a Russian anti-aircraft missile hitting one of their own fucking buildings. Now, anybody who thinks a civil war in the United States and people seizing control of weapons systems on military bases and all the shit that goes with that wouldn't end up in this happening all the fucking time is an idiot. Is an online slacktivist weasel. And on that note, thank you for being a voice of reason and peace, Philip Ittner, and giving us your insight into for real.
Sorry to
Not at all.
diverge from kind of my
No.
area of expertise, but I mean, like,
That
I
is
spent
your
a long time
area
with the
of-
U.S. military.
Yeah, that is your area of
and
expertise.
I
Yeah.
kind of, I've seen war. I've
Yeah.
seen the U.S. military. I've seen how they deploy in war, and
Mhm.
we don't want any of it. We don't want any of it.
Yeah.
And to play around with it as loose and fast as the current administration is doing, I think is look, I make no bones about it. I have
Mhm.
absolutely 100% political opposition to the Trump administration, but beyond that, even as the function of a state, this is an idiotic idea of putting
Mhm.
U.S. soldiers or National Guard or anybody that is in uniform against
Right.
fellow American is not something
They're not
we
serious.
ever want to see.
Yeah, too.
Well,
It's just people.
It's not. We
It's
don't want
macho
this.
bullshit.
We don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantasy idea of like, oh, we're gonna be Red Dawn,
Yeah.
or we're gonna be Civil War, and
Mhm.
there's gonna be this dramatic kind of fight that happens. War is not dramatic or romantic
Mhm.
or anything that should be, um, you know, uh, uh, uh,
Mhm.
desired or pursued. That's a fucking horrible thing.
Mhm.
It's a fucking horrible thing.
Right.
And I sit here in Ukraine, and I think of people who are dying, and I think of my time in Iraq, and I think of my time in Afghanistan, Syria, Georgia, Libya. The list
Mhm.
goes on.
Right.
Look, trust me, we do not want war in the United States of America, and
Mhm.
deploying armed, uniformed members
Mhm.
of the United States military into American cities is a really, really bad idea, and it is something that we should all. I mean, this is almost to the point of
Yeah. I gotta say,
we
I
should be thinking
envision,
about.
because of the reality of this, and because I think people who carry guns and train in the military and the like, with rare exception, your Private Piles idea of the world, by and large are abundantly aware in a way that Trump will never understand of the violent power of the weapons that they carry, and driven to a point because of their training, they might automatically act in a way that would set something off. But in general, in their own thinking, the idea of being the person that's the face of the new Kent state is, I really believe that's why they have pepper ball guns. That's why they're just grabbing people and throwing them around. Why it's physical violence, fisticuffs, as opposed to shooting. That's been this way because they're aware of the danger of their own weapons in a way that Trump can't comprehend. And I think I keep envisioning him in that like that Hitler video that always goes around where they're like, the soldiers have stopped fighting and the Soviets are coming this way and the U.S. are coming that way, and we really can. He's going 9-9, like keep fighting when he's yelling in that in the movie clip that everybody modifies, where he's like, why won't they fight back? Why aren't they fighting for us? They have stopped fighting. I'm like, well, they fucking can't. And the only version of that is that either they get killed or they end up killing somebody on their side because the other people are not buying this anymore. And I really do think we're headed towards a time where Trump is experiencing what was effectively his bunker moment, where he does not understand why the National Guard won't just open fire on, people in black bloc clothing just because they don't like them. And the public, like those people showing up in Portland holding the American flag, it makes it really fucking hard. Makes it way harder for them to do this.
As it should be.
Yes. And he can't fucking get it. He can't understand it. He cannot comprehend that. And there's going to be a point where he's like yelling at Stephen Miller, why won't they shoot? I guarantee that.
Why won't they kill other Americans?
Yeah, right. And
they don't like me.
And if
they don't like me, then kill them.
Like the respect that we ended up showing for Mike Pence in his moment of clarity, for all of his fuckery, his moment of clarity that like, no, I'm not going to throw the election for us. I'm not going to do it. The National Guard troops who are standing there and taking it, even the ones who grab people and arrest them for crossing the line, because that's their mandate. It's federal land. You're doing it. If you step onto the property, they're supposed to do that because it can lead to more awful. They get credit when this is all said and done for not having opened fire on American citizens, because I don't think, by and large, any of them want to do it, and the ones that do will immediately be in deep shit in a similar like and Trump's going to be pissed.
Yeah, we don't want to go down that road.
We do not, and neither do they.
He will be.
And remind them that they don't. That's the other thing, is you don't want to be doing this. Remind them every day. These are your fellow Americans, no matter whatever your disagreement is, that's the power of America. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. That said,
all right, well, I'll let you go. I am actually not going to be able to join you on Saturday, I don't think.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be traveling to Lviv tomorrow because I'm going to be I work with an organization that does pediatric emergency care, and they're going to be opening up a bunch of new operating OR centers. So I'll be probably on a train on Saturday.
Sure.
Coming back, but we'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you feel like it while you're there, if you want to selfie a video of it and tell everybody what you're doing, like a little 2-minute thing just to tell everybody what's up, I'll gladly play it on the radio and show it to everybody. So
with
my
buddy
Erwin
Redliner and his lovely wife Karen.
That'd be great.
Who do a children's ER emergency care unit, and that's what they're doing in Lviv. So I'm going there because I work with them to open these. So we'll do. I'll shoot you a little 2-minute. Hey guys.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Safe travels.
Sorry for fixating on the kind of American side of things, but
not at all.
I really do think, as somebody who has seen war,
people need a reminder
to make it.
Yeah.
This is not a game.
No,
it's not a game.
It's a lot less like the movie. It's a lot more like Saving Private Ryan than Rambo, and it's also a lot more like the Charlie Kirk murder. That if you've seen what happened when he died, it's that 1,000-fold. Yeah. It's civilians getting decimated from a long way off by rifles held by people who don't even know who they're shooting at. And that's something that has to be, kept in mind all the time. Anyways, you're awesome. Be safe, and I will talk to you very soon.
All right, buddy.
All right.
All right. Take
Cheers.
care.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. And chat room, welcome. Thank you guys for being with me today. Hit that like, share the show, clips, etc., etc. If you're watching this or listening to it as our separate podcast, we're, our beloved CSL is dividing the show up into podcast episodes for each of our guests, so that I have, I'll end up having like a podcast that has, I guess, 6 episodes a week pretty easily, but that would be, I think a value. Thanks, everybody. Applaud for CSL and for Mark P and Andrea and Mark Creamer and all of those others who have a wrench by their name in the YouTube chat. Thank you guys so much. And I think it was a great discussion today. But it was funny. I felt today after what I had put together about the Gaza proposal, which is only different from the Biden proposal in its vagary and its colonialism. That's right. It literally implements colonialism, and it takes all the direct path to a Palestinian state and goes, well, maybe we'll see about it later. That's the difference. And so to everybody who was genocide joeing it, all during the Biden presidency, all since October 8th, you fuckers, congratulations. You played yourself. And to everybody going, but I didn't understand at the time that it was, yeah, you did. I'm going to give you credit for not being that stupid. I'm complimenting you by saying you're a liar.
The screen glows bright with a crooked smile. We're still out.
Thank you guys so much. Hit the like, share the show.